What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, joining you after a 24-19 Packers win over the Los Angeles Rams, in which the Packers did the tale of two halves thing yet again, Jordan. First half was mega ugly, second half, mega pretty. Packers pull it out. And I mentioned his name already, but joining me as always to talk about this game and much more is Jordan Chesky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Doing well to talk about a Packers win. I don't know what that voice was, but
I don't know what it was either.
we're here to talk about a Packers win, and presumably nothing else happened off the field going into this game, correct, Numac?
That'd be actually be incorrect because coming into this game, we found
What?
out after I know we found out after we recorded Thursday night that Romeo Dobbs was not out for personal reasons. He was out because he was mad at what I presume is the game plan uh for this. What is the quotes for?
This is reportedly, we
Report
want to make
from
that
Bill Huber.
very clear.
Yes. According to Bill Huber's report that came out Friday afternoon, I think evening. Oh, was it
Uh,
Thursday?
Friday, I saw it like Friday at 9.
Yeah, it was yeah, so Friday night. My apologies.
It
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay. So
It,
basically less than 48 hours to
mhm.
game time.
Yes. So Bill Huber's report is that not out for personal reasons was Romeo Dobbs away from Thursday practice. Rather, he had ghosted the Packers at practice on Thursday and wasn't there on Friday as well. Reportedly upset over his involvement in the offensive game plan through the 4 weeks that they've played thus far. Um, Ends up getting suspended by the Packers for one game for conduct detrimental to the team. And I forget who I saw it from, but there's a belief that um, Dobbs will be back next week and that they've made progress and things like that. But I guess coming out of this, not something we
I believe that was
expected.
Ian Rappaport of NFL
Yes.
Network too. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you. Um, Coming out of this, not something we expected from Romeo Dobbs. I know it caught, I think, most of Packers Twitter off guard. Fans had varying responses to it, some calling him for him to be cut and everything, some liking it to a Thon Maker trade in the Discord. Had to put a little bit of a kibosh on that. But who is the fellow? I think it's Tyler Dunn, right? That wrote the Romeo Dobbs feature last year.
Yes. Yes.
So I would encourage everybody to go check out. I think it's Go Long is that blog name.
That's fellow Substacker is my
Yep,
my favorite joke to do.
fellow Substacker. Wrote a long two-piece feature on Romeo Dobbs last year and just getting to know the person who he is. And the Romeo Dobbs featured in that article doesn't seem like the Romeo Dobbs you might find in a locker room or at home away from practice because of uh his workout share through 4 weeks of the season. So not really sure what's going on. I'm not making excuses or anything like that, but I guess first and foremost, hopefully it's all resolved. Like hopefully they can come back after practice this week or after the game and get into practice this week and get it all hashed out. Secondly, I don't really see his problem right now. Like I think it might have been something along the lines of if I'm like taking a guess as to why he was so upset with the game plan. I think he's third in targets this year behind Jayden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. And I think he's only third behind Wicks because of last week's game where Wicks got like 12 targets. And so part of that could be he's a third year receiver. Had a couple of mistakes early on. Um, I guess not early on. Had a couple mistakes in the Vikings game. It's been sort of touch and go with just the offense in general, having only Jordan Love for 2 games through the end of last week. And when Christian Watson goes down, you don't see Romeo Dobbs' target share go up so much. Rather, you see Wicks's absolutely explode. And then reporters had mentioned that on Wednesdays, that's when they go through the game plan. maybe he didn't like that he wasn't a featured part of it as much as Wicks was, or there, et cetera, et cetera. That's merely just guessing. But I don't really see his point in that he hasn't been as featured in the offense as I guess he wants. But I get it, I guess. I just think it's very early for that sort of assumption to be brought up. 'Cause I believe that was the reporting in Bill Huber's report was that he was upset with his role in the offense thus far. And so I'm not really sure what to make of it right now because reading that feature about Romeo doesn't seem like the guy that would do this. He always talked about being unselfish ball players in the locker room through training camp and having a wide receiver room that's so tight knit and things like that. To go and do this seems a little bit out of character. So I'm just curious. I doubt we'll ever know because we don't ever know the truth kind of thing until way farther down the line. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious, hoping it's done and that this doesn't crop up again later in the season.
I think your approach of waiting and see, Ian, is a brilliant one. I think we could all take a page out of that book when it comes to something that we don't even really know what happened. And I'm not doubting the validity of Bill Huber's reporting. I could surely assume where it's coming from because I believe in that same article, reaching out to Romeo Dobbs's camp, there was no statement made or no one declined comment for the story, whatever it was. So we know where it's coming from. It's not coming from Romeo Dobbs.
Right.
So whether that is some face saving or just putting out this is what happened, it's a bizarre situation. I know Aaron Nagler, when he put out his kind of 5 minute little video going into for Cheesehead TV for going into like Friday night or whatever that was, he mentioned specifically he's never heard of the detail of having to go to his house for what kind of felt like a, a what's the word? Not life alert, but
Wellness check.
wellness check. Um, so yeah, just again, this is it's not. I'm not saying this is speculation, but we won't know if what how concrete these details are.
Yeah.
I think what is very more interesting to kind of talk about in light of this is that, we talk about there's no number one wide receiver, there's no, the Packers' best playmakers are all of them together. There's not anyone that separates apart from one another, despite the fact that they have a very vast array of skills that all complement one another.
Exactly.
But we knew part of the team building that they are going on, people will be cast aside, people will be usurped, people will move on, people will be, you know, whether it's contract stuff when their time comes for free agency or whatever, or how you are utilized in the game plan. Like I get people are looking at it from a very, and you mentioned very clearly, Romeo Dobbs is not, it's not like he has not been fed, so to speak. Also, two of those games came without your starting quarterback, who is a very more capable passer than Malik Willis, at least a proven commodity. So yeah, two games of those you had to kind of tweak your game plan and everything like that. I think it's very interesting that Romeo Dobbs, if we're going on this line of thinking, views himself as something greater than what he may feel he is in this offense. And more power to him to think that he's an athlete. That is what you're wired to do. You know what I mean? Again, we can go to the Dallas game last year where he's making plays that frankly we hadn't really seen him make in the manner of which he made those plays. And ever since then, it's been a big confidence booster about who he's been and what he's had to overcome going into the NFL and finding a home in Green Bay. And hopefully that continues because a Green Bay Packers team with Romeo Dobbs is better than one without it currently. Because there's a lot of banky on Christian Watson that we can't just guarantee. You know, Dontavian Wicks, as we will talk about a lot in this game, this future breakout star stuff, I think we have to sincerely pump the brakes if we haven't already done that already. So I just think it's a very interesting timing of, again, it's a one-sided affair of what we know and why he was suspended. LaFleur, of course, I believe talked about it after the game. Whatever he said on the podium, I don't know what he said specifically. I watched the game later after that everybody else did, but I'm sure what he said was something that kept the line of we'll handle it internally. Whatever happens, we hope to make up for it down the line, whatever. But these are the things that you just kind of bookmark and be like, huh, interesting. How do they keep handling this personal dynamic? Because as far as great as Matt LaFleur's time has been here, there have been these personal dynamics that obviously bubble up, whether it's like the stuff with Devondre Campbell, and we just chalk up to Joe Barry being just a lifeless defensive coordinator or whatever it was. But it's it's a Packer, it's football. You have 53 guys that think they are better than the everybody else. And this Packers team, we ideally look at as all for one, one for all. But not everybody's going to view it that way. You know what I mean? Especially within the locker room.
Right. Exactly. Like it's just these guys are athletes, these guys are competitors, like you said, they all think they're better than one another, not in a selfish sort of uh better than you sort of thing, but just like they're competitive. They think
Yep.
they're very good. They're just competitive. That's the best way to put it.
You think Luke Musgrave doesn't like seeing Tucker Kraft eat his lunch because
Right.
Tucker Kraft is vastly superior than him as a tight end, but Luke
Right.
Musgrave thinks that he is better than him. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Competition, the Brian Gutekunst thing of competition breeds a better team.
Right.
Well, you got to live with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are things you have to live with that are uncomfortable. I think the Dobbs thing is kind of this indication. No matter what
Yeah.
we'll find out about it,
Yeah.
it's kind of the indication of what that ultimately means too.
Yeah. I totally agree with your point there. I think what else is worth noting is that um through 4 games, Romeo Dobbs doesn't have a touchdown. He only has 3 targets inside of the red zone, only for 2 catches and 12 yards. Given context is that he could have had a
At 8 last year,
touchdown,
I think.
well that, but in context he could have had 1 touchdown this year against the Vikings had he actually caught the ball, respectfully. Like if he catches that ball versus double catching it. What is that, the one?
Yes, yes, that's right.
So he could have had one, double caught it and didn't catch it until he was out of the end zone. So that's his fault, but not to get into that nuance. But that could be something like that too, is that he had a monster year with touchdowns last year. Now he has 0 this year through 4 games. But I think that's the context that I think is why we're so confused as fans is like we look at Romeo, we see just like his general demeanor throughout, and this comes out of left field, and it's like we just I maybe I'm speaking for everybody, or maybe I shouldn't, but speaking for myself, I just don't think this is the time for it. You have week 1 against Brazil or in Brazil, and that's just a wonky game in and of itself. Like that, just take that as it is. You play with Malik Willis for 2 weeks, who they were going to run the ball a lot with him anyways. The playbook is a little bit more limited that way. And then you get Jordan Love back in his first week, and it's not like Romeo Dobbs did have targets last week. Like he had a decent game, um, despite having a couple of drops in there and a couple of interceptions that were meant for him, like that one that went off of Musgrave's hands and off his hands and things like that. But um, Romeo Dobbs last week had 8 targets. He had 4 catches for 39 yards. And it's not even like he's not a valued part of the offense. I think you put it great where it's like this wide receiver room is so good when it's healthy because everybody complements one another. And I think you're also right that the brakes need to be pumped on Dontavian Wicks a little bit. We'll talk about him later. But Yeah, it just seemed ill-timed in my mind. For whatever reason it was, it just seemed ill-timed to like this could have been addressed in the bye week. Like if it to go through half the season, things like that. I'm sure he doesn't want to wait to the bye week. I'm sure he wants it to be fixed ASAP because he's a third year player. The Packers are going to need to decide on his option coming up soon. And him and Christian Watson need to get paid in the next couple of years. And you see Dontavian Wicks and Jayden Reed and Tucker Kraft all having very good seasons. And like you see all these 2022 guys having really good having like good time, like good games. But you see the 2023 class having really standout seasons thus far. And I think like there just might be a little bit of looking over your shoulder to see, are you going to be the odd man out when it comes to paying these receivers? And maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But regardless, I'm sure we'll hear from Romeo this week at his locker after practice and such like that. And maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity there, but I doubt it. But I guess 15 minutes, Jordan. Do you have anything else to say on Romeo?
No, I just this is not forever for whatever we can't make definitive statements about something that we first of all don't know all the details of. Second of all, it's the middle of the season, as you mentioned, probably not the best time for it, but some communication, whatever that is, between coaching staff and player was not. There was a breakdown at least. How Romeo Dobbs is treated moving forward will be very interesting. I'm not talking about the fan perspective, but it's not like he's someone that we think of making these quotes like a Jair Alexander, or the ball hawking Xavier McKinney or whatever. Like he's kind of this guy that I feel like he's has a quiet confidence about himself. He's not gonna just talk for the sake of talking. He wants to back it up. You know what I mean? And ultimately, that might be what this whole thing is about.
Yeah,
So yeah, my thing is ultimately we just can't make definitive statements because this is just going to evolve as the season goes on, and for as many pitfalls as there is, and it's not just going to go away. There's obviously opportunity for redemption. We saw the Packers welcome Jair Alexander with open arms after everything that happened last year, and frankly, I kind of view that more disruptive than what Romeo Dobbs did.
yeah.
So not to play the it's all apples and oranges at the end of the day, but
Hmm.
not to play the comparison game for the sake of comparing. But yeah, we'll obviously keep talking about this because it's just gonna hang over this Packers team until it kind of fully resolves itself.
Right, right, right. So, with that being said, let's hop into the Packers Rams game. Get to the real football, get to the big W the Packers get today. Packers win 24-19, as I mentioned up top. Doing the tale of two halves playbook again. They scored 10 points in the first half and what is a pretty ugly first half for them. Down 13-10 going to halftime. End up scoring two touchdowns in the third quarter to finish 24 points and only let up a touchdown in the fourth quarter. And a missed field goal helped them as well to win 24-19. Let's start with the franchise man himself, Jordan Love, because I think that's just what you have to do in a game like today, where a lot of this game was, I guess, on the shoulders of Jordan Love. I think that's a good way to put it. Finishes the game 15 of 26, 224 yards, two touchdowns, two sacks, an interception, and again, a tale of two halves. He looked really good the second half. Really good. First half, yuck. A lot of yuck. I think
Not
the
the one exception would be the uh wonderful bomb to Reed.
yeah. Yeah, that was the saving grace of the first half. That was
Hey,
listen, I know that
bad
ball,
process, great play.
yeah, bad process, great play, great result is a great way to put it. Throws into triple coverage. That ball traveled 60 yards in the air, Jordan. It was a
Got an arm.
bomb. Jayden Reed tweeted after the game, uh, you know what? I better pull it up to make sure I got it
Yeah,
word for word.
we need this down
It's
pat.
it's short, so it won't be too long, but it does contain a swear, so uh beware. He said after it, fuck it, read down there somewhere, crying emoji, fire emoji.
There we go.
And that's really what it was, because that was I mean, it was a great catch too, dude. It was, what a way to go up and get it. But yeah, Jordan Love, first half, ends up with that toss to Jayden Reed for 60 yards. And then just a lot of inexplicable stuff too. I think like the biggest thing coming out of his MCL injury is his timing is just not there yet with the rest of the guys. Like it's there with Jayden Reed a little bit. They have obviously some chemistry that they're hitting on already this season. And but like the chemistry with Wicks just isn't there. And I think they're involving Wicks a lot for that to be the case. We'll talk about his day in a little bit after some of the other highlights and such, but I think that's the biggest detriment to coming out of the MCL injury is he just didn't get those 2 extra games to start getting into a rhythm with his receivers. And he's still leaving balls short. He's still missing guys. Guys are still dropping the ball too. Like Jayden Reed even had a drop today. That was,
Yes.
I'm not gonna say inexplicable, but hit him in the hands kind of thing. And so ultimately he comes back in the second half and just starts dealing. Has 2 touchdowns to Tucker Kraft, who we'll talk about in a second here. Um, But the biggest thing, which we haven't talked about yet, which is I'm surprised I made it this far, is is the pick six. It might have been the most Will Levis play I hope I ever see Jordan Love do. He is in the end zone. He luckily gets pushed, uh, tried to get pushed out of bounds by the blindside defender. I think it was Cameron Curl, if I'm not mistaken, to get a safety. He's lucky he didn't get absolutely walloped for a safety.
Yeah.
Cameron Crowe ends up just pushing him, manages to stay on his feet as he's falling, flicks his wrist towards Tucker Kraft, I believe, who is the target over there, and the Rams cornerback or linebacker, I forget who it was.
Jalen McCullough.
Yep. Uh Picks it off, easy 5 yard pick six. Like it was just one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my entire life. Uh Someone had tweeted, "Are we sure Jordan Love doesn't have Brett Favre's brain right now?" And I think that's like a great microcosm of Jordan Love's game in the first half. That throw to Jayden Reed couldn't have been more Favre. Triple coverage, 60-yard bomb, like drops it in there for a catch. That was Brett Favre in a nutshell. And then you get the bad decisions, throwing balls when you shouldn't for interceptions. Like I need Jordan Love to wear his own jersey coming out of the garage and walking to Lambeau so we can reverse the juju of having Jordan Love play like Brett Favre ever since he wore his jersey last week. We just need to reverse that juju. We need to unfreaky Friday Jordan Love and get him back to his regular ways.
I think the biggest problem that rewatching that pick six that it could have easily been undone is that he's first of all getting absolutely it's like a waterfall of pressure. The Josh Jacobs did a nice like little chip block to get one other blitzer, but if it was a Cameron Curl, like there was probably 6 or 7 Rams defenders that were, you know, coming down on him. And side note, the Packers offensive line had a tough day. I would not say it was uh,
No,
a clean performance,
no,
but I
it was a
digress.
tough day.
Problem is that Jordan Love was rolling, 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 rolling like a Limp Bizkit song
I
to
was
his
gonna say,
right.
I was gonna call you Fred Durst.
He's rolling like Fred Durst to his right. Then out of like he thinks he has enough security and time that he gets in his stance to like load up for a throw and make a play. And that's when Cameron Curl just does the 2 arm shove and he's knocked backwards and does his little like heave ho like he's throwing a horseshoe. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it wasn't good.
that's where it's like you keep rolling, especially for someone that like he can make throws off platform on the move. Not
Yeah,
he's
not horizontal though.
not horizontal. Well, I'm saying like if he keeps rolling instead of like
Okay, I'm gonna need you to say another word that isn't rolling because I'm gonna
if
break
he
out.
keeps Dursting, like you could just throw it out of bounds if there's no one there. But I think that is where the FAR mentality, if we're gonna play this game, this is not a new thing. We saw this first half of last season, and we thought Jordan Love was fully rid of
Yeah.
these. It's the gifts and the curse of someone who's very talented as Jordan Love and clearly has a big arm and is very confident as a passer, but he always thinks he can make the play.
Hmm.
He's not risk averse as Aaron
Right.
Rodgers is.
I think that's where a big difference in the comparisons comes from. Like Rodgers was very risk averse, and when he did take risks, it was through windows that only he could make.
And part of the thing that was that people, if you talked about this, you know, with someone that wasn't a Packers fan or a more a casual NFL fan, it's like, why are you complaining about that with Aaron Rodgers? Wouldn't you rather, if you have more reason to complain about it with Jordan Love? It's like that is more definitive to talk about like Jordan Love making a bad play. You saw it for what it was. You don't have to make that mistake. You're compounding on it by not just throwing the ball in the air when you could have, you know, had a safety, lost or given up 2 points. Yeah, it sucks. It would have been a dubious error, but you make it worse by throwing in the air and Rams get 4 more points than what you originally thought could have happened. But with Rodgers, it was always hard to make this argument for him because it's like he's not making these plays. So what are you getting mad at him about? You know what I mean? Like it's the eyes test versus the stat test. He's still a very
Yeah.
wonderful quarterback when he was doing those things. Jordan Love just loves, he thinks he can make that play. And I think part of that, you know, mentality is it's just hard to rewire, especially when if it's not this week, we saw it last week when he's throwing a bomb to Dontavian Wicks as very similar kind of untouched defender like Harrison Smith was coming down on him,
Yep.
and he throws it up in the air like it's a jump ball. You don't even know where Dontavian Wicks. He was in the area to make the play, but so was a Packers or a Vikings quarterback to intercept him.
Yep.
So I think that is. I think those or that mentality or whatever mindset is kind of clouding his judgment, especially as we talked about when he came back. He's now behind everybody else that is played 5 weeks of football.
Right.
Some people have had more reps based on preseason, which Jordan Love did not have a lot of. He's had a very weird year, especially if you consider going back to the start of training camp. He was holding in. He wasn't practicing because he was waiting for his contract to be done. Then that gets sorted out. He starts practicing, but he's not seeing preseason game action against other teams, which is fine. But it's this stop, start kind of thing that I think, for the consistency issues that we want to see him fix now, it's going to take he might be at a similar course to what he had to do last year, where it takes probably week 8, 9 and you start to see Jordan Love put more of a polished game together, a more complete game together. Because, I mean, if you look at his stat line, 15 for 26, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's not a bad game. It certainly could be better. It's probably like a B minus, C plus kind of game for him. But you're the franchise quarterback. We've seen you play and string together better performances. You know, I'm bullish that we still see that, but
Oh,
He's
for
just
sure.
kind of got to get. I think ultimately he's just kind of got to get out of his own way
Yeah.
in some instances.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I get that 100%. So I think we see it soon. Like this next stretch of games for them is going to be tougher than we anticipated at the beginning of the season. They got to go Arizona, Houston, Jacksonville, Detroit, next four before the bye week. So
Ooh,
that Arizona,
that might be the cupcake before it gets really hard.
eh,
The only
they're,
team
the rest of their
it's
season is pretty easy. I shouldn't say pretty easy, but is looking easier than it looked at the beginning of the season. Like Jacksonville is the easy team across that schedule. Arizona beat the Niners today in San
did
Francisco.
they actually beat the Niners?
Yeah, 24-23.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Houston beat the Bills today at home. Jacksonville obviously stinks, but then the Lions had their bye week this week, so it's a tough little stretch of 4 games here before the bye, and then they go Bears, Niners, Dolphins, Lions, Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, Bears again. So, like, I think the second half of the schedule is a little bit easier given sort of the states of these teams. But yeah, I think he for sure needs to start looking like Jordan Love again before the Jacksonville game. Like, I think we need to see an efficient, good game in these next 2 home games against Arizona and Houston.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, that play kind of overshadows what was, I would say, is still a solid game from him. He's still the big read bomb was
Was great.
stupendous.
Yep.
His scramble, like
In the
undesigned run,
in the first half, I believe
yeah, I think that was on a third down too
it
or
was.
something.
It was.
Like,
Yeah, it was no, it was the third quarter to keep a drive going. It was their first third down conversion
yes.
of the entire game. It was like in like the third quarter or something, or
Uh
maybe the early
and
early fourth quarter.
and side note, that was their only third down conversion
Yeah.
today.
It was 3rd and 12 in the fourth quarter. And Jordan Love scrambled for 12 yards. It was their only third down conversion.
That's a play that he's not we're not going to say that Jordan Love can usually make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not really a scrambler like that.
I just think they again, this is the bar that we are expecting for Jordan Love is getting higher and higher. So our tolerance for these mistakes, as I mean, these are big mistakes. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
We're gonna be harsher on him. This is
yeah,
not last year. Yeah, I mean, kid gloves are
yeah,
off.
yeah. I agree. Totally, I
But
1,000%. He played himself into that contract, and now he's got to play like has that contract now.
but
Like, I'm sorry, you don't get to. This is not meant to be hypercritical of Jordan Love, but like you don't get to hold into training camp, demand that huge contract, most guaranteed money ever for a quarterback in NFL history, and then keep making these mistakes that you made at the first half of last season that would not have got you this contract. He needs to play like second half of the season, Jordan Love.
yeah, but you could say that it did because we can't wash away what happened in the first half of the season.
I know, but like the
You're
second half is
making on the
what got him
belief that
paid.
yeah,
The second half is what got him paid that contract specifically.
yeah,
And the first half of Jordan Love last season and what we're seeing thus far isn't that level of quarterback. You know what I mean? Like I
no,
think
but I feel like they mirror each other more than we would like to admit because of how good last year obviously was at
right.
you know
Yeah.
post Rams game too.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I just think for him he he can still make these plays. There, it's just putting it all together
Yeah.
and ironing out consistency.
Yeah. He wasn't throwing short this week though, which is nice.
Yeah,
So all right. Half the reason Jordan Love looked so good in the second half was because of Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft, 4 catches on 5 targets for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 66-yard uh, gallop to the end zone in which he stiff arms the Rams defender right
oh,
into the ground. Tucker Kraft is becoming one of the better tight ends we've seen in quite some time, Jordan. And I saw some on Twitter, I forget who it was, but say Kraft, yak, and cheese were all those yards after catch he had.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. No free ads though too about Kraft. Um, I am. Today is a performance that makes me rue my pick for Packers breakout star because it is clearly Tucker Kraft
Oh yeah.
this far into the season.
Yeah, so far it's him without a doubt.
He is so good. And the only thing that I could say that I called my shot on before the start of the year was I thought he was better than Luke Musgrave. I don't know the snap counts. Luke Musgrave not even on the box score in terms of targets.
No,
Tucker Kraft is just he's their number one tight end. There may be some doubt of there's not doubt for who's the number one wide receiver, but there's certainly no doubt who the number one tight end is in Green Bay. The guy, what Luke Musgrave just fails to do in terms of staying upright, playing through contact, making play. I'm not trying to just belittle a guy that I still think could be an interesting player, but Tucker Kraft is just so well rounded that yeah, he comes away with his first two touchdown game of his NFL career. He could still like salivate at the blocks that he's getting open for Josh Jacobs because it felt like any big run that Josh Jacobs had today, which were few, Tucker Kraft is in the middle of those blocking schemes, rightfully so. He's just so fundamental to what the Packers do. And, when you're without one of your biggest pass catchers in the offense, like Romeo Dobbs, who do you turn to make these safety valve plays? Play, you could call it like checkdowns and stuff like that. But the guy is just rumbling through defenders routinely. He's so big. And I believe it was, let me pull this up. I saw it earlier, but I want to get this correct. Um, the first touchdown
hmm
of the day
the 66
was,
yarder.
yes, he had a top speed. This is courtesy of Next Gen Stats. He had a top speed of 19.7 miles per hour.
Boy,
Is the
fast
fastest speed by a tight end on a touchdown this season, which is probably I don't know how many tight end touchdowns there have been,
enough.
but
Isaiah likely had like three in the week one.
that is true. But he's just such a for my kind of not to just bring it about me, but my thing of I felt like we would have a longer learning curve with him just because I thought there was going to be a bigger mountain to climb for him coming
Yeah,
from D2
right.
to the NFL. The guy's like what 22, 3 games into his NFL career
Yep.
is doing stuff like this routinely. He's just such a I could go on and on about Tucker Kraft because I love the kind of player he is, and I love tight ends too.
Yeah. Not to mention, I don't think you put it out. You said it. I don't think you said it. If you did, I apologize. But also, just a really good blocker.
Yes,
Like
yeah, he's
he can do the second most important thing a tight end can do, which is block really well.
yeah. There's he just does everything. That it's just what the position calls for, and he is just yeah. There's nothing really outside of a fumble last week. I think he's had probably one of the most like spectacular performances by a Packer this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. That's fair to say. So, um,
Tucker Kraft gushing corner is now over.
all right, I thought that was to say, I suppose. All right, moving on, moving on, moving on. Let's talk about the run game a little bit. In a week in which we thought the run game was going to reign supreme, they absolutely do not. Josh Jacobs 19 carries, 73 yards. Emmanuel Wilson 6 carries for 24 yards. Jayden Reed 2 carries for 19 yards, and obviously the 3 carries for 10 yards for Jordan Love. The one real rush is the one for 12, one rush for 12 yards, and he had two kneel downs, which are the other two there. Josh Jacobs does get his first ever Packers touchdown. That was the score in the first quarter that put the Packers up 7. Um, Good play by him. Runs into the back of the line, doesn't get anywhere, bounces it out, and stretches for the goal line. So a good play by him. I think his day was more indicative of the poor play from the line that you had mentioned earlier. They weren't really getting any sort of push for and opening up any really holes for either Josh Jacobs or Emmanuel Wilson at any point during the game. Um, Josh Jacobs did have a few good runs. His longest was 13, but I feel like he had a few of like 13, 11, 10, kind of like things like that. So he was getting some good breakaway plays. I think my biggest question regarding the run game in this game in particular is why the I mean I it didn't feel like this. So my apologies. If you take away the two kneel downs from Jordan Love, the Packers ran it 28 times and threw it 26 times. I guess watching the game, it didn't feel like they ran the ball more than they passed it, right? Did you get that? Did that feel like that when you like watched the condensed game?
Uh, no, especially when it was the drive that they're up. It was right after the Rams scored. It's probably like 3.5 minutes left,
Yeah,
and they throw it on second down.
right.
And it's like, first of all, terrible play call,
Yep,
terrible. Um, it was incomplete pass, sets up obviously a pass on third and long.
yep.
But I think that like last week too is that you know the run game gets phased out. More so last week they had to come back from
They
a
had to come
big lead.
back.
So,
Yeah, so they had to throw it a whole bunch.
but a game like today where it just felt very scattershot and
Yeah,
Love's pick six. I mean, they obviously had to come back from to take over the lead again, but
yeah.
they didn't really. I don't know. I felt like they took more chances or were still aggressive with their play calls, even if I found some of that aggression to be needless.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't reflect a game where they had, like you said, 28
Yeah.
rushes and
They
126 yards.
yeah, they ended up going over 100 yards as a team, but which is like again impressive and again
It
shocking
was more
because
it was more workmanlike because I'm looking at it right now. Josh Jacobs' longest run was 13 yards. I'm gonna guess that was his only run over 10 yards.
no,
Not to,
no,
that was
no, no,
not.
no, no. He had a few of at least 10 yards. I feel. I'll look through the play by play, but I feel like he had a couple where I feel like his day pretty much went. Uh, it was either short runs of like 2 or 3 yards, or it was yards or runs of like 12 or 10.
Yeah.
I'm going through all the box
It
score
just
stuff
felt more
now.
it felt more workmanlike. I think like part of it is that they had they didn't really have the icing on the cake until, Evan Williams, who sneaky shout out, great game from him today.
Great
Now
game.
that he had a lot more snaps. Um, but they didn't ice the game until he made the play at on fourth down as the Rams are kind of driving again,
Mm-hmm.
and he breaks it up the drive and turnover on downs, and they can get into victory formation. But yeah, it just felt like a lot of outside of a few couple runs where there was Love or Jacobs or Reed, they weren't rattling off these big um runs that the Rams were giving up coming into this game. What
Finish your point.
I feel like you're about to neutralize, you're
No,
nuking it.
no, no. Finish your point.
Um, and that we felt like it was going to be a big point of emphasis, especially as we were hoping for this offensive avalanche to rain down on the Rams.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. He had two over 10 yards. He had his longest of 13 and the other one was 11.
Still, sub-
Uh, but his other
17.
his other longest was 8, and then like he had like one like 7 yard one. It was a lot of 3 and 4, and
Yeah,
then the two big ones. But then he had that one catch for 21 yards too. That one like little
he
screen dump
did. That
off.
was that was the one screen pass that Jordan Love like threw on to like right between the chest
Yeah.
too, which that was the other thing.
Yep.
It just yeah, we couldn't shake the feeling of him kind of just Josh Jacobs handed the ball, and it's second and 8.
Yep. Second seven. It's like
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff today. I think like he said he had a couple of nice holes today that he hit and did well.
yeah.
But I'm with you that it was. yeah, workmanlike, I think is a good place for it. So I think going forward, they just like I think the line just has to be better. And I'm not sure if like obviously we talked about like the front for LA was pretty good, right? Like Jared Verse and company were going to be having decent days, right? And so that I think they ended up having like Verse had a pretty good day. He was in a lot of pressures and whatnot. He's pretty good. Just like watching him play today.
Kobe
Um,
Turner had 2 sacks.
right. I don't think Verse registered one. Verse ends up not registering a tackle according to ESPN's. Oh yeah, he did. He had three. My apologies. But yeah, it was. I just think they have to be better. And to that point, Rasheed Walker, I think needs. We're gonna have Jordan Morgan being out is really unfortunate. Obviously, he would have been in rotation with Sean Ryan, who I think is having a good year. Like I think he's been pretty good. Um, at feeling at just being that guy. But I don't know, man. I feel like every time I see Rasheed Walker doing something, he's getting beat. Like I just don't know how
Yeah.
long of a leash he has. I think he got called for a penalty today. I'm almost certain he did. I'll see if I can try and find it quick, but it was either a hold or a false start. I forget which, but we'll talk about like some of the penalty stuff later. But yeah, the line just needs to be better because Josh Jacobs is good. I think there's like I don't want to say there's a real opportunity for Josh Jacobs to have a really good season with this team, but I feel like he's not getting the opportunities from his line to do so. And I'm not sure if that's him as a runner or if that's just or if it's the line. I think that requires some film watching, which I might try and do um, soon here. But I mean, comparatively, and again, you guys can make fun of me all you want. Comparatively to Emmanuel Wilson today, they both had the same sort of running lanes. Like I think we've gotten accustomed to seeing Emmanuel Wilson run really hard and get some good chunk plays when nothing's really there. And that was kind of the thing the situation for both of them today. They're both kind of getting stuff at the line, not really able to make something out of nothing when both of the backs are really good at doing that when they have the opportunities.
Yeah.
And both of like to Emmanuel Wilson's credit and why I like him so much is that he hits holes really hard. And there wasn't any there for him today. I think that's part and parcel why he only had 24 yards today to go with not a good day on the backfield either when he got set up for that bad screen pass call where he got blown
Jesus.
up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm happy with the amount of running they had. Now looking in hindsight, if that they had ran as much as they did, kind of thing. I just need the line to allow that to be better. But then again, like
It's got to breathe easier. I mean, part of
I think that
again,
is a great way to put it. It has to look a lot easier. It has to
yeah,
breathe easier as a unit. It shouldn't be what looked like to be that hard to run the ball.
yeah. Again, this is just not a good of the 5 games that they played. This is the worst the offensive lineman has looked
Oh, for
this
sure.
season. They got beat routinely. This Rams team, again, that was the one few strengths that we could rely on and talked about in our preview pod. This team pressures quarterbacks. They, for what looked to be a very leaky defensive line, in the run game, it's not that they shut them down, but they certainly limited big plays routinely, outside of a few runs. But yeah, I think part of it too is that we see a game like the Colts game, and granted, it's super inflated because of just the circumstances going into it. But we look at 257 yards or however many yards it was in the first half, even, and we think this is a Packers team that can run the football and just cram it down your throats. And I don't think that is, it's not a mirage per se, but I think that was a very exaggerated performance. Again, also against a team that was not good against the run either. So we just kind of felt like, well, we got the same ingredients, got a team that's, not going anywhere fast this year. You know, I I am coming to grips this is a larger point, that this is a good Packers team. It's not great yet.
I think that's a great point. I think this team is definitely showing its youth. I think it's definitely got some problems they need to assess,
Like,
and some things need to get smoothed out.
we look at like their explosive offense. They can make plays. They made plays today. That's why they can come back and again, it's only 6 points, but you're still on the road. You're still playing against a Rams team that can start to
You're
play
on
with
the road.
confidence.
You're on the road on the West Coast. You're playing a Rams team that's motivated to do well despite the injury that they have, and it's you're playing a good team. Like
Yeah.
that's all there is to it.
I think with Jordan Love, the biggest problem is that they have been able to rely on big plays to get them out of messes.
Yep.
Whether it's been the Brazil game, obviously today with Jordan Love's gaff, last week with just getting run off the field practically in the first half. I would like for them not to keep making this a habit.
No, it's the entire reason why the first half of the season last year looked like it did. They were
Yeah.
always putting themselves in bad positions in the first half, and now, like I think I had oh to your point about it only being 6 points, being down 13-7 at one point, or yeah 13-7. Um, hold on, now I'm second guessing myself that it was that.
No, you're right.
Yeah, 13-7 at one point. I think it felt a lot worse than it did, right? Like,
Yeah, well, actually, sorry. Technically, it was 13-10 going at half
but
because
but they were
Narvis had the
down
field goal.
13-7
Yes.
at
Yes.
one point, and it felt a lot worse than it did
Yeah.
because they're in the back of the end zone. Jordan Love throws that bad pick six. It's about to be 14-7. They end up missing that extra point, which is critical into the game and how it shakes out later down the line. And it's just man. Hold on, I gotta make sure that they actually did miss that. Yeah, they did because they didn't have any. Um, yeah, because then they had to go for two later in the game. Yep, yep, yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep. Um, but coming off the heels of that pick six, you're about to go into halftime. If you don't score, the Rams have a chance to double up,
Yeah.
and they end up going down, kicking the field goal and scoring, and it feels better. But I know going into halftime, I was not confident whatsoever. It had a feeling of a really bad game, and they just can't be doing that. It just can't be doing that.
No. No. And if we could switch sides, this is a game based on plays that the defense made
Yeah.
that wouldn't have been saved without first Kingsley Anagbari forcing the fumble.
Mm-hmm.
I forget who jumped on it right away, but
Xavier
that
McKinney.
Zay, yeah, that's right. Um, shouldn't have doubted that it wasn't anybody but him. But
Right.
that ends that opening drive from the Rams in the second half,
Mm-hmm.
sets up the Tucker Kraft touchdown
Long
2 plays
touchdown.
later.
Yep.
Next drive, Xavier McKinney, who else, comes away with his fifth straight interception in as many games. And then you had another touchdown. Like, this defense, like the offense, it's far from perfect. There were a lot of things that were just like, again, we were not, they didn't have Jair.
Nope.
Um, I'm missing someone else that didn't play to
Uh,
correct.
no, I think everybody else played. Oh, Devontae Wyatt.
Yes, Wyatt was out. He was ruled out on Friday.
Yep.
So 2 out of your 11 starters.
Yep.
There were, it was just not, I feel like I'm just being nagging right now.
No, see, I agree. I've been thinking through this pod that we've been sounding quite negative for the entirety of it. But I think that's because this game never really felt good. Like I think the third quarter looked nice, frankly,
Yeah.
obviously, but the first and second quarters were ugly, and then the fourth quarter was ugly. They
Yes.
are they are one fourth down stop away from Evan Williams by Evan Williams from probably losing that game because they had I forget where they were on the field. Um,
They were down. I think it was like
they're
near midfield.
The Green Bay 38
Yeah.
with a minute five left and no
So you're
timeouts.
knocking on the door of field goal range.
Wouldn't have mattered. They needed a touchdown anyways
Yeah.
to do it. But the possession before that, the Rams marched right down the field and scored a touchdown, and they were doing the same until that last set of downs. And they couldn't get a stop on Kyron Williams on short on fourth down throughout the entire game. Couldn't like get a stop that way. But I mean, I agree that we feel that it's been a little naggy, but it didn't feel confident either. I would have loved to come on this pod and just gushed about everything that looked good. And I'm going to gush in a minute about Xavier McKinney, but and just like the playmaking in general. But I mean, golly, Jordan, there isn't a whole lot of positive from this. It's Tucker Kraft, it's Xavier McKinney, it's a couple other highlight plays here and there.
Anibari,
It's Kingsley Enagbare, but other than that,
Evan Williams.
I mean, that's one play. I'm talking about like
Uh,
eh,
one play that was stacked on top of good plays
yeah,
that he was
I
around
yeah, you're
the
right.
ball.
You're right.
But this this is not, if we're being very blunt, this is not the game that we thought we were coming into.
No, at all. At all.
You
Like,
know, and this is first world problems. They won the game.
yeah.
We thought the Packers were going to lay the smackdown on them. This is a
And they should
clean.
have.
They should have. They had ample opportunity to. They had
Yeah.
11 drives, and you just come away with 24 points.
Mm-hmm. They
This
had
team,
they had three and outs in the first quarter. Or I think in the first quarter. I think they were on the doorstep of a fourth, except
yes,
for like one first down play. And then they went 4-0.
yeah, this is easily the probably the most. It was not the offense's best day of the season so far.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, my
I just,
apologies. My apologies. It was a three and out touchdown, three and out, three and out, the pick six, and then the field goal.
yeah. Um, I also say that when the offense had, let me say, 323 yards. That's, I mean,
It's
kind
good.
of at
That's that's
it's
that's
pedestrian
that's
for them.
320
For them.
this season thus far, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is that like they make it look good. Like they wrap,
On the aggregate.
yeah, they wrap a really nice gift in toilet paper covered in crap. And you're like, "Oh, I got to dig through this nasty, stinky, soggy, wet toilet paper." And I open it and it's like, "Oh, wow. Look at this nice watch.
Yeah.
Look at this nice gift. It's a W. Awesome." But the getting there hurts.
It hurts. And it I don't think it'll be like this
I
all
hope
season.
not. Like
We can at
there,
least we can at least compared to where the Packers were this time last year, we can at least say they're winning football games.
yes.
You know what I
I
mean?
My biggest problem is that like I said that their second half of the schedule is not easy, but it's not hard either. I think they're all winnable
Easier
games.
by
Easier.
comparison, you think?
Right. Like compared to what we thought it was at the beginning of the season. Easier than contextually now. But the problem is, Jordan, is that
The
the rest of
division.
the season, the only game that should be a cupcake is the Jacksonville game. Like, there's no cupcake teams out of the Cardinals, the Texans, the Lions, the Bears, the Niners, the Dolphins, the Seahawks, the Saints, and the Vikings again. None of those are like go out, just have a day and do it. They're going to be tough it out grind games. And so they have to start getting on track soon. And Hopefully they do. But we have to gush about Xavier McKinney. We have to. It's
Yes.
been
Yes.
50, it's been an hour into this pod. We have not talked about the likely defensive player of the year uh in the NFL. He gets his fifth interception of the year on a ball I'm not really sure what Matthew Stafford was throwing. I'm not really sure what he was thinking there, or if he just didn't see Xavier McKinney, but comes over the top
Probably
of a
not.
of an overthrown ball, grabs it and has a nice return for it. And like we mentioned earlier, Kingsley Enagbare knocks the ball out of, I believe it was Kyrie Williams' hands, to force that fumble. And again, who else but Xavier McKinney picks it up and gets a nice little return out of that one too. Like this man is everywhere. He doesn't really pop out on the stat sheet for tackles. He only has 3 tackles, and I feel like that's kind of like where he's at throughout the game, regardless. But he almost had another interception today that I think like went through his hands on
Yes.
like a breakup or something. But golly, man, like it's been posed around Twitter today. Like Xavier McKinney is the most important free agent signing since Julius Peppers, since Reggie White, since Charles Woodson. Like
It would be Woodson,
it'd be
but
Woodson, but like I mean, I've drawn that
Reggie
comparison
White's number
already.
one.
What
So Reggie White's number one. Woodson's number two. McKinney's already.
I
Julius
think
Peppers had good years at Green Bay, but
I think
Xavier
that's
McKinney.
I think that's selling Peppers a little short, but I do agree that as of 5 games through the season, McKinney's already passed him.
Yeah, he's the defensive leader of this team.
Yes,
Him coming to Green Bay came with Jeff Halfley, who this is
could
not
be
a perfect.
his biggest defensive benefit to the team thus far.
I would agree. Um, but I think that has tailor made him to be this security blanket, leader, disruptor, game breaker. I like anything that we could say of someone who plays a position that people throw the ball around you, but they don't design to throw it to you. He's making sure that they're throwing it to him because he's gonna be there. He's gonna be there when Kingsley Enagbare, who continues to have a good season, might be the best edge rusher on this team currently. We're doing a stock report.
Yeah,
Xavier Kinney comes out, oh, I have the ball, even though I was lined up 15 yards away to start the play. Um, he's just so good. And again, right now the Packers are in this, you know, uh big players are saving their asses. That is what they're in this mode. Xavier McKinney makes the biggest plays out of all of them routinely. And I think your point, he's gonna be an all pro already. Like this, how you can't
he
tell,
has to
like
be.
as much as it inflates, you could say, oh, he has 5 picks, but what is this overall impact on what it's doing for the Green Bay defense? He's only one of 11 guys. And guess what? He's forcing turnovers.
Yeah,
As much as we'd like to see the Packers as a whole be this kind of dominating, you're not moving the ball on us kind of defense, the pass rushes would be much improved than what it's been.
right.
He is killing off drives by just simply picking them off or picking up the fumble.
Yeah, like a interception is just as good as a first down sack.
Yeah.
Arguably,
And
arguably better, obviously. But like,
yeah,
if you're not going to get home on the pass rush, at least you're making some sort of play down the field to take the ball away, anyways.
yeah. And that the return that he had today set them up for a short field that they marched down, they killed off clock, they found the end zone, and at that point we were kind of thinking smooth sailing. That did not happen, but he's just so reliable. And this is the second game that Jair missed. Secondary is not perfect. Valentine was in the mix, but I didn't see him all that
He
much
wasn't
as
having a
much as
good
I
day.
thought. He wasn't having a good day either. There, Kai's just a security blanket for this
Yeah,
defense. I'm going to keep saying that. And it's good to have security.
Yeah,
But
that's a funny transition.
I know I had a point. I think I was gonna make a joke like ring doorbell or I don't know
Yeah,
whatever. It's not even security.
yeah. Big fan of Xavier McKinney on this pod, obviously.
Yeah, X gonna give it to you.
That's right. All right. A couple of naggy things that we ought to talk about before we skedaddle out of this pod, unfortunately. Something's gotta change with Dontavian Wicks. Cannot keep dropping the ball. He's had, I think, conservatively, 4 critically bad dropped passes in the
Two
last 2
today
games. 2 today, at least a
at
couple
least.
last week. Like they're the most inopportune drops I think you can have as a young player. And we talked about it earlier, but like pumping the brakes on Dontavian Wicks' emergence, I think has to happen. I think it has happened now. Um, Patience obviously is a virtue when it comes to these players. I think he's still a pretty good player. He's still getting open. Like it's crazy how open he is, which is the problem when he goes to catch these balls. But I forget what it was, or if I can find out, if I can look through my notes of when it was. But that that drop he had late in the game, it was the fourth quarter. Um, it was the ensuing drive after the Rams touchdown drive. 3rd and 10, they throw it down the field. Wicks is open, turns, jumps, goes right through his hands.
Yeah.
Like it's just not good. 2nd and 15 on the previous drive, had another one go right through his hands. Like it's just not good. He cannot keep doing this. And I think that that's not the timing part of it, but he had a couple plays earlier in the game where he comes out of his break and the ball's 3 yards beyond where he's standing, kind of thing. That timing will come hopefully soon with him and Jordan Love, but golly, man, like I know there's no one that hates this more than Dontavian Wicks himself because I think he's just that emotional and that competitive of a player, but uh, it's just got to stop. It's gonna happen in more critical points. I think like it happened at critical points last week. They had a chance to win that game and didn't because of multiple Dontavian Wicks drops. And so they're lucky they didn't lose the game because of it this week. But at some point, it can't just happen anymore. It just can't, especially when you're down 2 receivers. Like when they're trotting out Reed, Bull Melton, and Malik Heath, 2 guys of which had fine days. Malik Heath had a couple of false starts, which wasn't ideal. Um, but you just have to be more reliable when the 5th and 6th receivers are your receivers 3 and 4 this week. You just have to be.
Yeah. I think Dontavian Wicks is firmly in the Devontae Adams second year conundrum where he just keeps dropping the ball.
Right.
Devontae Adams in his second year dropped 12 of 96 passes that were thrown his way. That was courtesy of PFF tracking. Um, I think your point is spot on. It's so glaring that he beats his man and separates for him or separates, past him that Love looks his way in his progression, throws the ball, and Wicks just can't hang on to it. There's a play today that Tony Romo was saying that Jordan Love overthrew to Dontavian Wicks. I think it was on a 3rd down. And you look at it and it's like, it's not overthrown. It's in his catch radius. It just go through his hands. Like
Mm-hmm.
if your hands are there to make the play, you're not, and your expectation is you're going to make the play.
Right.
I don't know. I think you said earlier that chemistry issues, maybe that's part of the case. I think also he might be just too fast that he's playing, at like
He's playing too
he
fast.
he's playing too fast that he's at like 1.2 speed and Jordan Love is at 1 speed. You know what I mean? Don't
Yeah.
listen to podcasts past 1 speed, please. Saw someone on Discord mention that.
No, you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think 1.2 is fine. If you're a 2.0 person, you deserve to belong
You can't if you can't do it in real life,
in a
don't
mental
do it.
prison.
That's my my credo. I don't know.
Anyways,
Whatever. Again, the larger point is until we see these mistakes get ironed out, let's stop saying he's the next Devontae or the next number one for this team.
right.
Dontavian Wicks is still a productive receiver, but he's not all there yet.
Yep. That's a great way to put it. Great way to put it. Uh, I'm gonna quickly go through some of the mistakes we saw today because I think this is a problem with the Packers' focus. I'll go through them quickly since I don't want to be again more negative than
Airing
we
of
already were.
grievances.
Yeah, because we do this every week now where we talk about how bad it is, but it is. Uh, false start on Wicks. He had one today. Blake Heath has I think two false starts today, and then
Mm.
false start on Zach Tom. A couple of drops um from Wicks, obviously. Jayden Reed had a drop as well. And then there was a couple of plays where the uh the defensive line just could not get a stop on Kyron Williams when they're in the backfield. And this last point will lead into our final point of the pod is that the pass rush, again, non-existent today. Like this is we'll start with Rashawn Gary because he's supposed to be the guy. Hasn't registered a sack. I'm sorry, only registered one sack since the New York Giants game last year. So that's now 12 games where he's registered a sack, and that only sack was the um, Lane Johnson sack against Philly week one. Other than that, he has not had a sack in the playoffs since week uh 13 of last year, 14, my apologies, and none since week one. It's a problem. It's a very bad problem. Preston Smith has been fine, but you think of guys getting sacks on this team so far this year, it's been Edgerrin Cooper, who had a half a sack, or I think he had a sack
He had a full
today.
sack today on a blitz. That was
That was great,
marvelous. Chef's
marvelous.
kiss.
Carl Brooks had one and a half today. Preston Smith has the other, but then like Devontae Wyatt's been getting sacks, a couple from Lucas Van Ness throughout the year. Like everybody but Rashawn Gary is getting home, and that is a problem. It's team defense to a point, which is fine. And again, pressuring sacks aren't the end all be all. At some point, you have to get home. And I hate being such a negative Nancy about Rashawn because I think he's a good player. I just I just wonder where it goes sometimes, or like why he was able to have such a great season last year. Like you go through his year last year, obviously lesser snap count to start the year, but he goes half a sack against Atlanta, three against New Orleans, one against the Raiders, one against the Chargers, and then three against Detroit and half against Kansas City. Like he had a decent year with like the train the sacks last year. Two games with three sacks is crazy. But then he goes four games without a sack between Denver, Vikings, Rams, Pittsburgh. And he's been on a cold streak ever since. He had the sack against the Eagles week one, but I'm not really calling that a sack. It's like and the fact that like it's a sack. It's not the sack in which he worked for it, right? Like he just kind of walked around the guy who did come up with the snap of the ball. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? And I just need to see it. Like if I really wanted to have fun with it, I go, where'd it go? I miss you so. It feels like it's been forever. Yada yada yada. Whatever song that is.
That Fort Minor.
It is. That is Fort Minor. Um,
I really don't.
but like, golly, man, I just want to see Rashawn be the guy, and he's certifiably not the guy right now, and that is an issue.
Yeah, there's no anchor to this pass rush. I think more concerning. I'm not a great spotter in the moment. Snap counts help me like put numbers to what drives they were on. There were some drives, especially in the second half, where you look at the edges, it's Preston Smith and Enigbari. It's
Yeah,
not Rashawn Gary.
no,
And that might be more interesting
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of burnout again, not burnout, but like he's just not there. This is his first full year coming back from an ACL, uh, without restriction. I'm grasping for straws here, but it's not what we expected. It's not
Nope.
anything to, as I mentioned, anchor this pass rush. The kind of, we saw it in Tennessee with 8 sacks, and we thought, look at this. It's not one person to kind of lead it off. It's going to be by a committee to get the
Hmm.
job done, and
Which is good. Like you want that to be how
you
it
rather
is.
have that, but you know that's where you're having it's this kind of
By committee is good until everyone can't get home at once,
yes,
or during everyone doesn't get home in a single game, which is kind of
yes.
where we're at right now in these last couple of games.
It's the yin and yang. Is that if you're not doing that, then what is your defense really doing? Then
Right.
Xavier McKinney just bursts out of the air like he's Superman
Right.
and picks out the ball. But that to me is, we can look at the good things and these plays that you don't bank on happening. But football is more than that. It's what is structurally there that you can build on. And for all this talk of this pass rush being more aggressive and stuff like that, we're seeing it in different ways, but we're not seeing it from the guy that you paid to be the highest or whatever
Yeah.
he ranked as,
Yeah.
resetting the market as the highest paid edge rusher,
Right.
not playing up to it as we,
He only
have
had
been
two
saying.
tackles today. One was solo. Like you
No,
just have to be on more plays as that guy. You have to be.
no. Yes, sorry. I'm saying no, as in I don't want to keep seeing that. Yes, he has to
Yeah.
make plays.
I mean, like Kenny Clark today, same thing. One tackle, one solo, two tackles. He had a couple plays where he was in the backfield and just doesn't get there. He had one play where he was in the back with a blow up a run and gets shoved in the back and taken completely out of the play.
Yeah, that the one play or that one tackle that he had that was like the recovery where he chasing the guy
Right.
from behind. That was nice. But yeah, it's
Like,
just it's very inconsistent. And I
yeah,
think too, like Devontae Wyatt not playing today, that's a big bummer.
I
That's
think that's I think they're missing him a lot more than
you
we
think.
anticipated.
Yep.
I think he's becoming a crucial part of this defense.
Yeah.
Hate it for your boy being right on a guy finally. Um, we're going a bit long, so I'll say this before we end the pod. Let's see if anything else.
Congrats to Braden Narvison. This is
Yeah,
not ironic. I think
that's it. It was
we
a
have
good
to
day for him.
we have to celebrate the little gains. You know what I mean? There has
Yep,
been overwhelming positivity, but when he went, what
one
is
for
it?
one, and then 3 for 3 on extra points.
You did your job. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you for doing your job.
Eddie
Um,
Whalen, tougher day.
Tougher day. My last bit before we get out of here. And well, maybe we'll talk about next week. Keyshawn Nixon, you are officially on fraud watch.
You're on what?
Fraud watch.
What?
Fraud watch.
Fraud?
Yes.
As in what? What did he fraud
He's
against?
getting cooked. And that's all I'll say. Because it's been bad. So we'll talk about it if we need to.
I think we can talk about that. Yeah.
If we need to.
I will
But
also add, is he getting cooked because he's outside corner when he shouldn't be?
probably.
Yeah.
But he needs to be better than that. Has to be. Has to be. That's all I'll say.
I love Fraud Watch. I
Brother,
love these segments that are coming
okay,
up.
you know what? Fuck it. We're talking about it. Because I need no, because we can't, because I don't have the stuff from today.
Just hold. We'll hold
We're
on
holding it.
Fraud Watch.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. That's it for us on this episode of Talk of the Tundra. Thank you for getting through a albeit whiny episode of Talk of the Tundra. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Go over to our Substack, gspn.substack.com,
Packer
I
fans are
believe is what it,
whiny. That's what they are. That's what we are. Okay. I'm just saying, I last bit. We are whiny because we expect a lot. This that's just where we are right now. We're justified to be whiny.
That is true. We're spoiled, and when we're not spoiled, we get to whine about it.
Thank you.
Go check out the Substack. A lot of great things happening over there. A lot of articles being written by everyone across GSPN. Jordan and Ty doing some lifting. I'm gonna be in there dipping the pen there soon enough. Check out the cheese board if you haven't, folks. The cheese board is free to look at with some analysis of people getting cheeses every week over on the Substack, further than what we have um, talked about here. Sometimes they're juiced with stats. Sometimes it's midnight o'clock, and I don't have time to do that. So you just get a little bit of a off the cuff writing from old Numac here. So go check it out. We appreciate it. They'll be all I think the Buck stock reports will be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the After Darks. Go check out GSP After Dark. Ty and Andrew released a 8-year-old timeout with Ty from 2016 in which Mo Harkless was talked about. So go check that out. Buck season just had their preseason game tonight. They're kicking off their season. Go check out Eurostep and Win in Six over on the Bucks feed. Go give Cruising for a Bruising your love with some subs and some likes over to your podcasts over there as they end their season, sadly. And then, yeah, we already talked about them on Thursday, so I need to talk about them again. And then make time for this, obviously. There's some stuff in the hopper involving. So go check out that very soon. So, all right, folks. We'll be back in your podcast feeds this week as we preview the upcoming game against the Arizona Cardinals next Sunday. So until next time, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you. Rock on.